All right, I'd like to call our meeting to order and take this opportunity to welcome everyone, those in the chamber as well as those watching from the comforts of home. Roll call, members of council are present. Councilor Tonio is off on personal leave. And I do have a report out. That's it. That we did host a closed meeting. Council was just held in accordance with and as permitted by section 239(2)(e)(f) and the Municipal Act, where the subject matter that was discussed at the meeting related to E, litigation affecting the municipality. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and I, technical, commercial, or financial information was supplied in confidence to the municipality. During this meeting, council received an update and provided direction, next steps in a litigation matter. 2, receive legal advice in connection with the town infrastructure matter and provided direction to administration to bring a report to council for approval to apply to the DMAF 2023 intake for the reconstruction of Cedarwood Sanitary Pump Station. 3, receive confidential information from Essex Power Corp and provided direction for administration to bring forward into open session a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a shareholder resolution in support of a venture composed of Essex Power Corp and a subsidiary of Essex Energy Corporation. And 4, receive information advice subject to solicitor-client privilege in regards to a matter concerning town property. Okay. I think I need that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with respect to the report out of the closed meeting, there was direction for council to pass a resolution. The resolution for council's consideration is that council hereby authorizes the mayor to sign on behalf of the town in its capacity as a shareholder, a resolution in support of a venture proposed by Essex Power Corporation for its subsidiary Essex Energy Corporation.
Moved by Councilor Houston, supported by Councilor Higginson. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right, we'll take a 30-second moment of silence and then we'll stand for the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
All right, our land acknowledgement, we acknowledge that we are on land and surrounded by water originally inhabited by indigenous peoples who have traveled this area since time immemorial. This territory is within the lands honored by the Wampum Treaties, agreements between the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, Lenni Lenape, allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around our Great Lakes. Specifically, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ojibwe, Ottawa, Potawatomi, Huron-Wendat peoples, and the Caldwell First Nation. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture while remaining committed to moving forward respectfully with all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. To the members, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you this evening. Yes, Councilor Jobin.
Yes, and through you, there will be two actually under minutes for March 28th, Court of Revision, Sullivan Drain. Lands assessed on that. Also, third and final reading bylaw 2023-28 of the Sullivan Creek for the same reason again.
All right, thank you. We'll have them duly noted. All right, members of council, we've got minutes of the regular council meeting, April 11th, 2023, special council meeting, April 11th, 2023, Tecumseh Hamlet Secondary Plan. And recommendation that those minutes of those two meetings be duplicated and delivered to the members be adopted. Councillor Higginson, Deputy Mayor Houston, yours the remission on those minutes. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Do have supplementary agenda adoption requirements meeting. Deputy Mayor McKetty moves. Councilor Dorner support. On the subs, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. We'll move on to delegations, and before we go to the first delegation of Golden Age Club, first I want to welcome everyone to our meeting here in the chamber. It's been probably, I think this is the first meeting since that we've had delegations in-house, probably since March 17th, 2020. So welcome everyone to the chamber. With that, I want to ask everyone that there are some rules in this chamber. There's the quorum, and those rules are going to be adhered to. And so hopefully we don't see any persons outside of the delegations that are going to be registered that will be speaking. And let's show some respect to everybody, whether it's for or against or anything in between. And so I will hold that very strict, and any disruptions within the chamber, I will certainly rule on them. So with that, I would like to ask our first delegation, Ms. Dara O'Connor, the president, and Angie Soulier. Good evening.
Hi, how are you doing? Okay, dear Mayor and members of council, thank you for having us here today to discuss impending changes of Tecumseh Golden Age Club. We know that changes are coming. We also know that the interim move and eventually move are going to be crippling blow to our club. A new relationship with the town may be arguable, but the sudden change is too severe. We learned of the town's plan suddenly when a meeting on March 28th was supposed to clarify the library needs and our temporary move. We received an info sheet, which is this one here, from them and from the town, which they were shocking news that they were moving temporarily and we were never coming back to the club. We learned in the second last bullet point that I quote, after the relocation period is over, 12420 Lanoux Street will be managed by the town of Tecumseh with no exclusivity for user group. Let this sink in. We've been here for 51 years serving the town seniors. We were willing to cooperate with the library, but this is a whole new issue. I need also to quote the very last line, the town of Tecumseh and the Golden Age Club will work together over the next year to determine the next steps, including future location for program and activities. What are we supposed to make of this? We are all overwhelmed and frankly deserve better. This issue is not working with, the issue is not working with town staff. The issue is Tecumseh Town Council allowing us to be treated in a dismay way, where is the report this decision was based on. Those who didn't have to campaign in the municipal election had plenty of time to call me and let me know what was going forward. Our relationship would be changing. No one called me during the budget deliberation to say that we had a new contract and the effect of the club's operating budget either. Of course, we will make this work with the town. As you know, we work with the age-friendly community planning program and the Older Adult Center Association of Ontario. However, we need our council to support us and valuable services in Tecumseh. Town council duty is to be responsive to our concerns. What we were asking for council tonight is a formal commitment that you will help us get through these changes and not crippling blow that causes our dismiss. And the commitment to support us through the impact to our membership and operations. We are reasonably requesting that the town of Tecumseh Golden Age Club is a preferred user of our former building. As for this report being presented to you tonight, it is very informative and puts the town's actions into reasonable light. And yet, the Golden Age Club position is not unreasonable. Our concern with this report lies in 3 areas. The first one is it's not a reasonable amount of time to reconstruct our club, and in order to keep it sustainable for the future. We don't know how long the library's occupation of the building will actually be. We do not know how our program and membership will be impacted by this interim period. 2 years is more reasonable for safety settle us into different reality. Second, we want the council involved, not just administration who helped council make informed decision. Our Tecumseh Town Council responsibility to give direction to them. This is reasonable given the importance of the Golden Age Club and Tecumseh, and council ratification of Tecumseh Senior Advisory Committee. Third, all of our concerns will be addressed, should be chosen to link all the town's strategic priorities found at the end of this report, not just one. In a sincere way, each of these strategic priorities fits that we all of the town and how new relationships with the town proceeds. Ensure that Tecumseh current and future growth is built upon principles of sustainability and strategic decision making. Integrate the principle of health and wellness into Tecumseh's plan and priorities. Steward the continuous improvement approach to municipal service delivery to residents and businesses. Demonstrate the town's leadership role in the community by promoting good governance and community engagement by bringing together organizations serving the town and the region to pursue common goals. Please do not leave these boxes unchecked. We want to make this a commitment tonight that the Golden Age Club is not going to be set to fail. Thank you. We've got petitions here also up to 330. If we weren't stopped over the positions, we would have had more.
Just leave that with the clerk's office, please. We'll get it. Just put it on the corner of the table there. Is Mr. Soulier, are you going to speaking?
Pardon?
Will you be speaking?
No, I came here to support her, but if you want any questions, I can help her answer them.
Okay, thank you. We have a report. Could we bring the report forward, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Becchetti, Council Houston on the report coming forward. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Ms. Geniac?
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, and members of council and members in the galley. Tonight, I bring forward to you CRS 2023-07 titled Golden Age Club Relocation, and that this report be received, and that council approve the accommodation plan for Golden Age Club activities, existing user groups, and rental clients to be temporarily relocated to the St. Clair Beach Community Center for the period of time required to support the Cattle Library use of 12420 Lanoux Street during renovations to the Cattle Library building. And further, that council waive the fees for the Golden Age Club for use of the St. Clair Beach Community Center, and that as part of the accommodation, the town of Tecumseh honors the Golden Age Club fees for existing user groups and rental clients through the temporary relocation period. And furthermore, that the Golden Age Club and all existing user groups and rental clients thereof be subject to town of Tecumseh user agreements for facility use going forward. And furthermore, that council direct administration to engage in a year-long consultation period with the Golden Age Club in developing a long-term plan to accommodate the programs and activities of the club to determine future facility location. I'll now take you briefly through the main contents of the report and then open for questions. On February 14th, 2023, council approved report CRS 2023-01 Cattle Library renovation, the final concept design. And this was the report that culminated in a previous series of investigations into the renovation of the Cattle Library, which are planned for 2023. During the renovation period, temporary accommodation of the library is required. Under an agreement between the town and the Essex County Library Board, the town is responsible to provide physical space to accommodate the library branch, including any temporary accommodation as required. During the fall of 2022, administration reviewed several options for temporary accommodation of the library, inclusive of town-owned facilities and local commercial space. The most favored option was the building located at 12420 Lanoux Street, currently occupied by the Golden Age Club, due to its central location, size, layout, accessible features, parking availability, transit access, and cost to the town. The chief librarian for the County of Essex concurred with the recommendation. On February 22nd, an email was sent to the executive of the members of the Golden Age Club, inviting them to attend a meeting with the mayor, Mayor McNamara, Councillor Rick Toniel, Margaret Missick-Evans, our CAO, and myself. And on March 8th, that meeting was held with members of the executive of the Golden Age Club to discuss the relocation, the temporary relocation of the Golden Age Club from the town facility at 12420 Lanoux Street to the St. Clair Beach Community Center, located at 13675 St. Gregory's Road, for the period of the Cattle Library renovation. In that meeting, information was shared with the executive of the Golden Age Club that there was a requirement for this temporary relocation of the GAC to the St. Clair Beach Community Center to accommodate this relocation due to the fact that interior renovations at the library are needing to be done. At that meeting, it was communicated that the town would fully accommodate the program schedule of the Golden Age Club at no cost and at no change to the Golden Age Club, that the town would move any equipment to exclusive use storage spaces at the St. Clair Beach Community Center, including use of the kitchen cupboards for the duration of the temporary relocation period, and that all user groups and private rentals would also be fully accommodated at St. Clair Beach Community Center at whatever fee had been established by the Golden Age Club. On March 9th, email correspondence was sent to the executive director at the Golden Age Club, which requested a meeting on March 20th with the Golden Age Club executive at St. Clair Beach Community Center to review the space and for staff to more fully understand the equipment storage needs, and requested a member of the Golden Age Club, a meeting of the Golden Age Club membership on March 28th to review and discuss and share the plans with the membership. That email confirmed that the town would fully accommodate the program schedule of the Golden Age Club, the user groups and private rentals, and that the town would work out the details regarding storage based on an inventory of equipment and supplies to be provided to the town by the Golden Age Club. It also stated that after the relocation and construction period, the facility on Lanou Street would return to general community use, would be available for general use by the community, i.e. non-exclusive, and that the facility would be managed by the town of Tecumseh, like all other facilities and properties owned by the town of Tecumseh. It is important here to note that non-exclusive does not mean that the Golden Age Club cannot or would not be one of the community users of the facility on the New Street after the relocation period. It means that the Golden Age Club would not be the only users of that facility on Lanou Street, and that this non-exclusive use is in compliance with the current standards approved by council for all other town facilities, sports fields, and or other town properties. Since March 9th, administration has been in continuous communication with the executive director of the Golden Age Club and have met at the Lanou Street facility several times, including a meeting tomorrow, communicated via dozens of emails, and had several phone calls to determine the accommodation requirements. Administration can confirm today that all Golden Age Club programs are all fully scheduled and accommodated at the St. Clair Beach Community Center without change to that schedule and without any additional fees, and that any program-related equipment will be relocated to the St. Clair Beach Community Center by town staff, including items that have been identified in the inventory to date: card tables, shelving units, cards and other program equipment, kitchen and any other food supplies or other supplies, a chest freezer, the dishwasher, desk and computer. And we are in consideration of relocating the washer and dryer, requiring proper venting needed to be installed at the St. Clair Beach Community Center. In addition, the Golden Age Club has been offered access to St. Clair Beach Community Center on Wednesdays every week from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the duration of the temporary relocation period for the purpose of resupplying food and or baking and or taking care of the general business of the Golden Age Club. Also, should the washer and dryer be unable to be urgently installed for Monday, May the 1st, the Golden Age Club will have access to use the Parks Department washer and dryer to launder any items requiring laundering whenever park staff are present. Conversely, the team is open to installing a basin for laundry to be deposited in the office area. And we would be happily doing any laundry that might require to be done over the next couple of weeks while we are relocating you into the space. The Golden Age Club programs that are provided and listed on their website include Mondays, Pepper from 12:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. On Tuesdays, Euchre from 1 to 4 p.m. On Thursdays, Pepper from 12:30 to 4 p.m. On Friday, Cribbage from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. As mentioned, the same opportunity for accommodation and program equipment storage and relocation was also provided to the user groups and private rental clients who had been using the Golden Age Club facility on Lanou Street at the same days, times, and using the Golden Age Club fee schedule. These groups had a variety of fees, included a Bible study group from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Mondays, tops on Tuesdays from 5 to 8, tops on Wednesdays from 8 to 11 a.m., AA Mondays from 9 to 11 a.m. and Thursdays from 5 to 7 p.m. AA monthly regional meetings held between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. Taekwondo Wednesdays and Fridays to 6 to 8 p.m. To date, 2 of the AA groups have chosen to relocate temporarily to another relocation. TOPS Tuesday Morning Group have advised that they will be relocating, and we are waiting confirmation for the TOPS group on Wednesdays. The Bible study group, Taekwondo, and the AA regional meetings will transfer over to the St. Clair Beach Community Center per the schedule provided by those groups and have been provided town permits using the Golden Age Club fee schedule. Private rentals, of which there were 12 between May 13th and December 28th, had been charged at either $75 or $150 for use set by the Golden Age Club, depending on whether or not those rental clients were members of the Golden Age Club. They have also been accommodated and provided permits. These activities include baby and or wedding showers, birthday parties, meetings, and or Christmas dinners. Further to the March 28th meeting, an open house has occurred at the St. Clair Beach Community Center on April 19th. The St. Clair Beach Community Center has been reviewed by the town's accessibility committee and deemed to be equivalent to Lanoue Street. The town has added one accessible parking stall at St. Clair Beach Community Center and confirmed that parking is in compliance with zoning bylaws. Installed privacy locks on exterior washroom doors at St. Clair Beach Community Center as requested by the Golden Age Club. Offered to assist the Golden Age Club with nonprofit registration, should the Golden Age Club want to consider that. And conducted a quarterly inspection of the St. Clair Beach Community Center to ensure fire and building safety and confirmed compliance with same. I wanted to also provide additional comments with regard to parking. The parking lots themselves surrounding the St. Clair Beach Community Center and the parking lot at St. Clair Beach itself are utilized by soccer and baseball groups during the season on weeknights, primarily between the May 8th to August 13th period, from 5 to 9 p.m. Mondays to Friday, Saturdays 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for soccer and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for baseball. According to our information, the Golden Age Club currently does not have any programs scheduled on Saturdays or Sundays. We believe that parking conflict for Golden Age Club programming therefore should not be a problem. Further, since there are clients and user groups that are part of the user group and or private client program, we have made arrangements to support parking requests and for those organizations as we determine there to be any conflict with sporting use in those soccer fields. And what I mean by that is that we'll be placing staff in the parking lot entry on days and or evenings when there might be user groups and or private rentals occurring, so that staff can ensure that folks who are parking in that parking lot at St. Clair Beach Community Center are in fact the people who have the permit to access that facility. I'll move to the financial implications on this report. The Golden Age Club has had use of this town-owned facility at 12420 Lanoue Street without charge since 1975. The group has sub-rented the space to various groups and private rental clients over the years, using their own schedule, without a town user fee agreement, without adhering to town fee schedules. Revenues from these rentals have contributed to the annual revenue of the Golden Age Club to support their activities. Administration is recommending that Golden Age Club user fees for the groups and private rental clubs be honored for the duration of this temporary relocation period. These arrangements will be and or have already been reflected in user agreements or permits with the Golden Age Club, their sub-rental groups and private rental clients for the duration of this period. As the facility at 12420 Lanoue Street is a town of Tecumseh owned facility, the town provides supports without charge to the Golden Age Club for utilities, snow removal and grass cutting, repairs and maintenance. In 2021 and 2022, the cost of these annual supports was $15,700. As previously stated, the Golden Age Club is currently not a registered nonprofit within the province of Ontario, and as such is not qualified to seek government grant funding on its own. Accordingly, the town has assisted the Golden Age Club with grant funding support. The town will continue to administer and report on the Seniors Active Living Grant, of which the Golden Age Club is and has been the sole beneficiary at a projected $21,000 for the upcoming relocation period. This would result in no net change to the budget for the Golden Age Club based on the provisions that the town has been offering to the organization for the past at least 10 years. Since 2014, the town of Tecumseh has submitted and managed the reporting for this Seniors Active Living Grant to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to support the activities offered by the club. The grant has provided $223,828 to support the Golden Age Club's operational expenses and to purchase program-related equipment not covered by the town of Tecumseh over the duration of that time period. That concludes my report and my comments, and I'm open to questions.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Gignac. Any questions or comments on the report? Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Gignac, and thank you, Dara and Aggie and the rest of you for attending this evening. Just a question to clarify the temporary location in terms of keeping status quo. I think, administratively, you've gone, in terms of the extra mile, in terms of trying to accommodate to try to have the transition because of the need for the relocation. That temporary location, if the library renovations, we talk about a year, if it's 18 months,
Mhm.
would that still be part of that, working with the Golden Age Club during that time so that, I don't want to say it's 12 months, it could be 16 months. If that's the case, if the town's willing to be able to work with the Golden Age Club to be able to, get their feedback. Because I think the concern is the timing.
Mhm.
And so if we can, elongate that time, and I think it helps everyone in that case. And in terms of renovations, that hasn't even started yet. So, I think we're in a good spot to move forward in that direction. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
it's
through
in
the
the
mayor
motion.
to the deputy mayor. Yes, that has been clarified in correspondence, both in a letter from Mayor McNamara on March 31st and in several follow-up emails. We refer to it as the temporary relocation period for that reason. Since it is a construction project, the project could be 12 to 18 months to 24 months. At this point in time, we are projecting a 12 to 18-month construction period. But the correspondence is all reflected. The accommodation is for the entire duration of the temporary relocation required to support the construction, whatever duration period that construction is.
And just to follow up, obviously it's like a domino effect. The Golden Age Club has to move because the library needs to move. What about the user groups that were using the teen center? How many were affected and what's happened to them? I know, for example, the Optimist Club would meet there. Has that affected, are those groups or clubs taken care of?
Yes, through the mayor to the deputy. Yes, there has been movement in motion on many other groups, including the Optimist Club, who have vacated all of their equipment from the Optimist Club or the St. Clair Beach Community Center for this period in order to accommodate the programming equipment and supplies for the Golden Age Club. We have made some moves for people using the center ice room at Tecumseh Arena, people using other facilities at Tecumseh Arena. People have changed some of their times in order to accommodate the schedule, etc. For the most part, everyone is accommodated, I would say, and people have been very gracious and have been very willing and eager to support the requirements of not only the Golden Age Club and the library. People have been very supportive, I would say, of the complexities of the situation. And I have found them and my team have found them to actually be quite accommodating.
Thank you.
All right, anything further? Yeah, Councillor Higginson.
Thank you very much. And through you, I just, I was particularly in the recommendations looking at the commitment to consultation, and seeing as the club has been in existence in town for decades, I'm wondering if we can kind of conceptualize what kind of engagement the club will have with, or what that town administration will have with the membership to really understand the growth that's possible in enhanced seniors programming in the town, and any real gaps that we may be able to work with this organization to realize.
Yes, through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, we've indicated that period of consultation will last as long as it needs to and as long as we would like it to. And I think that we know that is going to be a very robust conversation. When I looked at the census data from the most recent census, there are 9,294 people in the last census over the age of 55 who reside in the town of Tecumseh. We know with future growth projections that number can only rise. And we think that the demand for both diversity in programming will certainly grow and increase. We know that over the period of the past 5 years, the town had received a community activity grant, $30,000, and was able to offer 56 workshops and accommodate 800 seniors in other types of programming at Tecumseh Arena, in our parks and open spaces, etc. So we know that there's a growing demand there. And we look forward to engaging the members of the Golden Age Club and many other community organizations in Tecumseh who serve and support seniors in our community to develop a robust plan for seniors programming and recreational activities in our community, not only for next year, but for the decade to come.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. I especially appreciate the kind of equitable outlook on how we'll be delivering programming that is paid for by ratepayers of the town. And as we kind of age and grow, we can do so in place in a way that we're used to doing in the place that we love. So I appreciate that very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add two others, Life After 50, as well as the community support group that serves our community right now in Meals on Wheels, but many other programs that could be made available to many of our seniors in the community. I think we're underperforming in terms of delivering, a whole host of diverse programs to certainly our senior citizens within our community. And the numbers are going to continue to grow because the boomers are moving on that side. And, I was a bit taken aback, Ms. Gignac, in terms of the numbers, like 6,000, at 65 and up. And it is the demographic, the fastest growing in our community is that number. And I think we need to expand whatever we can in terms of delivering far more services to our citizens. The other big piece too is have to start looking at more senior housing within the community, affordable senior housing, not only for seniors themselves, but the disabled within the community, where there's a bit of a lack of diversity in housing, in those types of housing requirements in our community. And so I know there's other programs that we can look at, in particular with the accelerated program for housing, which has just been released. There's certainly some other opportunities for us to continue to grow that aspect of requirements. Councillor Jobin, Councillor Houston.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to the delegations and to everybody here this evening. The services you do provide are valuable to the community. I will say to you clearly that some of the most beautiful, important people to me in my life are seniors. And part of this process has opened my eyes to seeing that we need to do better for sure, 100%. This is a bit of a growing pain. We are displacing also hundreds of users at the library to benefit that and utilize and improve that for our entire community too, which a number of seniors utilize that facility and service to our community. So we do want to do better by you. We want to work with you. We want to work with all user groups in our municipality fairly and with the same regulations and managements throughout. So just know that you are important, and this will be a little bit of a growing pain and maybe even an opportunity. It has actually given us an opportunity to see where we are missing the boat and what more we can provide for services and how we can better even support the Golden Age Club. So I'm just curious to maybe, Beth, something when we talk about our consultations, maybe we need to have a better avenue of conversations with them instead of maybe just emailing. Maybe that's not, I don't want to sound insensitive, but maybe emailing is maybe not the most efficient, effective way for them. As far as maybe being tech savvy, maybe we can have maybe telephone conversations on a monthly basis or something like that instead, or meet at one of your events to have discussion instead of whatever. But please know that the message needs to be conveyed that we care, we're concerned, and we are interested, and you are valuable to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the delegations and everyone who is here this evening. Thank you for coming out. And this is really a part of democracy, and coming out and sharing your thoughts and being part of the process. It is quite important. I do want to say thank you to Ms. Gignac and all of our administration who has spent time and been engaged on this file. Mayor and Councillor Tonio, who could not be here tonight. I know he's been specifically involved in a few meetings and the face of council at those meetings, but we are all here to listen and help. The one thing that in your speech tonight, you had mentioned asking for a commitment or asking for fairness. And I know our administration, our team, all Team Tecumseh is here to be fair and open and support all of our residents. And that is something that I know is really part of our core here. So just know that, we're here, we've listened. We are, here to help. And I know, through Beth and her team, moving forward, there's going to be a lot of great things that we will develop just to ensure that we have, great programming and support for everyone in the community, including yourself. So thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Ben, yep, well, there's the report before us. Move the report. Councilor Houston, do I support Councilor Higginson on the report?
Can I ask that?
All in favor?
Are we gonna get a
Opposed, if any, that is carried.
I don't know.
Wanted to also take this opportunity to thank delegations and certainly thank the members that have come this evening. I certainly want to extend my thanks for maintaining obviously the quorum into our chamber. And the one thing for sure, as alluded to by Councilor Houston, is that we are going. We are here to serve our community and all aspect of it, from the young to the working and certainly to the seniors as well. It's we vowed that we will continue to work hard on certainly on behalf of the whole community.
Are we going to get a commitment from you guys?
I beg your pardon?
Are we going to get a commitment from you guys? Because I feel we're not getting the support we should be getting from you guys. If it was true, we would have been known this last year.
We
And
are
we
going,
didn't. You knew what was going on. How come we didn't get a report on how this came about before?
this has been going on for a long time. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I
that's
think
why
the
did
dates
we
have been
get to
given.
know?
The dates have been given, and we've had multiple opportunities. We've searched everything that we could, from, as Ms. Geniak alluded to, from commercial venues to St. Anne's High School, to many other areas, even the arena and so forth. This was the best scenario for us to be able to accommodate the library. And remember, the library provides an essential service, not just for young, but also seniors as well. Access to computers, access and various other teaching tools that they use in the library. And first and foremost, the library, we have a commitment. We have a commitment that we have to provide a facility for the library, and which we will. And furthermore, it is a key asset of our community that all citizens, including seniors, who avail themselves of that library service. And right now, we want to make sure that it's the diversity of folks that are there, the disabled. The building is not designed to be able to accept them, and it has to be retrofitted and refreshed. The last time I think we refreshed it was 25 or I think close to 20, 25 years ago. And so it needs to be brought up to 2023 and beyond. And so to say that we haven't, I don't agree. I don't agree with certain of those comments, but I know it is difficult. I get it. I mean, I understand change for people is very difficult. I get that. And no different than all organizations, whether it's the soccer group, the baseball, the hockey, the baseball club at Lacoste, or the other groups in the southern part of our municipality, the Batestone Recreation Center, all of them, the McAuliffe Group, all of them are part of the Tecumseh family. And we have to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to build resources and assets to accommodate all of them. Those are important key factors. Those are building blocks of the whole community. And you know what? At the end of the day, we've got to learn to share. We've got to learn to work together. We've got to learn to share the resources that we have. It's not as if, you haven't got a place to be able to have your meetings. it was so well alluded to, and I got to give credit to administration. They made every effort to make sure that every aspect of it, except for the address, but every aspect of it is there. It's there for the seniors to take advantage of. And we're going to continue to work. You've seen it here.
Yeah, but
Can
you
I-
only gave us 7 weeks to move out. You knew
That's
this last year, what was going on.
But
You
Mrs.
should have let us know.
Mrs.
This
Soulier,
is,
in all due respect, you don't even have to do very much. We offered, and we still are. We will do the move. We're gonna go there. We're gonna help you pack. You tell us what you want.
well,
And it was all there. Everything is done. All you have to do is just point, and we'll transport everything there. We'll set it all up for you.
no, that's not the point.
That's not the
We
point.
understand
But it
that.
is the point.
We're happy
Mm.
that you are, okay? That you're doing it because we can't do that because of the heavy work. But we're thinking that you seem to be talking so much about the library, but not enough on the golden age.
Oh, my gosh.
It's always a library, and we're all for the library. We are.
It's, it's unfortunate. The move has to take place. We have to make sure that
But where's the
everything works
report
together.
that you decided last year? Where is that report?
What happened? Why
Yeah.
were we not notified before the election on this? So everybody had their point of view and knew about this. This wasn't just a 7-week notice. This has gone by prior to that. Then there's an election. Nobody told us about that. We didn't have a voice. We didn't have an opinion. And we weren't even told that the senior advisory committee was shut down. And I'm on the committee and still didn't know.
The decision was made by council, and May 1st, the move is going to take place, and we are going to rebuild our library and provide a home for the Golden Age Club. And all that's changing is the address. So
It's not,
it is, the delegation is over. It's done. The decision's been made by council, and we're going to move forward and provide you a home until we can finish the library. And then in the meantime, as alluded to by council, we'll have an opportunity to discuss that further and how the future is going to unfold. And again, Golden Age Club is part of the family, and they're going to be treated no different than any other group in the community.
are we getting a commitment on writing tonight that we will be going back to the
You're
Golden
going to get a
Age Club?
commitment from us that we're going to work and try to solve the issue and how we're going to move forward. At the end of the day, you're provided with a home, you're provided a place, and you're going to have the discussions with
But we are losing
administration.
a lot of people. So you understand, it's just not a home. We are losing all our groups, all our rentals,
Okay,
no, I'm just asking.
I'm just saying that this is getting nowhere. We're going to agree to disagree. The decision's been made. The decision's been made that we're going to,
So we don't have a voice.
Yeah, we don't have a voice.
well,
We don't
you're
have a
here.
voice.
That's it.
You're here.
Because apparently Wednesday, when you threw that meeting on to us, which we didn't know last Wednesday
We-
at the Optimist Club.
Nobody threw a meeting, but
Yes, you
anyway,
did.
I'm
You
gonna
were
ask-
supposed to have a
I'm going to ask for a
walkthrough.
recess, and, we'll be back in 15. And this delegation is now over. Thank you. I'm going to recess.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
There
See,
you
there
go.
you go. They don't care about this. That's it.
It's okay, sweetheart.
Thank you.
All right, our 2023 water wastewater rate study, Director of Financial Services, our next delegation, Mr. Kitsos and Zora.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'll be presenting the town's 2023 water and wastewater rate study this evening. Present with me tonight are Zora Visakruna, our Deputy Treasurer, Manager Financial Services, Vanessa Dedalt, our Deputy Treasurer, Manager Revenue, and Nick Malash, our Financial Analyst, all of whom played primary roles in the development of this study. I'd also like to extend thanks to Phil and the Public Works Department for their contributions to this document. So council approval of the study in principle will serve as a guiding document for the town's water and wastewater rate setting process, which occurs annually as part of the town's budget process. Next, please. So the purpose of our meeting tonight is to present the draft rate study to council and residents, and to advise that the draft document will be available for review on the town's website tomorrow or upon request. So it should be on the website by end of day tomorrow. During the presentation, we'll highlight key factors considered during the study update, where we landed with those factors, and what the end result is to users. We'll then present our 10-year projections for operating and capital budgets. There will be an opportunity for discussion immediately following the presentation. And following that, there will be 2 weeks' time to allow for any feedback of the draft rate study from council or the public. Dependent on the outcome of the 2-week review period, formal adoption of the study will be possible at the regular council meeting of May 9th. So a little background on our rate study. So I'm going to work backwards on this one. So our last rate study that was completed by consultants was in 2010. That was prepared by Watson and Associates. Shortly after that, in 2011, there was a report by our CAO with respect to large users and requests for relief. So we amended the rate study in 2011 to introduce a declining block rate, and we updated the study for wastewater debt financing. In 2015, we updated the study. This was the first update that we performed in-house. We did have a peer review by Watson and Associates at the conclusion. At that, I guess the key point of that study was that we tailored the annual rate increase for fixed variable fees to move to a more predictable revenue stream. We were trying to work towards a 40-60 split between fixed and variable costs versus a 30-70 split. And then now more currently, the rate study was due for an update in 2020. So that was postponed due to COVID. And then again, due to some temporary staffing vacancies. So here we are today with the 2023 rate study update. We'll add benefits of completing the study in-house. It's primarily develop our staff skills, provide some experience, and provide some cost savings to ratepayers. So guiding principles for this rate study. So financial sustainability. So when we talk about that, we're talking about maintaining the cost of delivering quality water and wastewater services over the next 10-year period. Stabilization of revenue, a rate structure that employs both a fixed fee and a variable fee. A target of 40% fixed allows for greater predictability of fees and reduces the impact of seasonal demands on monthly fees. Affordability, so ideally the cost of the service should not be prohibitive to users. Fairness, the rate structure should not benefit or adversely affect one type of customer over another. The rate structure should ensure customers are contributing equitably to the cost of the systems. Economic development and retention, so use of the declining block structure to recognize economies of scale that may exist for large consumers. And finally, conservation, so a rate structure that encourages conservation. So we still include within our rate structure, 60% of a consumer's bill is based on consumption, while 40% is based on a fixed fee. So some key considerations when we're developing or updating the rate study. primary is the rate structure. So there's several types of rate structures that are considered. Most common are fixed or constant, increasing block rate, declining block rate. So we use the constant for our water and wastewater. So that's one volumetric rate for all users. And we also incorporate the declining block for our large water consumers. We also consider types of users. So including the quantity of those types. This is an area that has not changed much since our last update. Also, things to consider is our bulk water purchase agreement with the city. So this obviously impacts operations, user rates, transfers to reserve fund. 2016, 2018, we did have a rate adjustment. So that impacted all of the above and caused a deviation from our 2015 rate study. Wastewater agreement with the city. So we have a contract with the city to treat our wastewater. So of course, this will impact our operations, user rates, and transfer to reserve fund. This has been an area that has been relatively stable for years, however, has had significant cost increases imposed upon us the last 2 years. And then our updated 5-year capital plans. So we incorporated capital workshop that was undertaken in 2021 and 2022. Our asset management plan updated in 2021. And then our 5-year capital plans recently updated. So this is basically a shot of the rate study. So I believe our cover this year is going to be the same as last year, last study in 2015. The table of contents will be similar. So with this slide, we are basically going to jump to the chase here, and we're going to show the end result of the study that is recommended. And we are recommending an increase to both fixed and variable rates of 3% per year for the planning horizon. We will maintain the declining block rate structure for water and volumetric thresholds in place. We'll maintain the 28% reduced rate to large users where monthly volume exceeds 10,200 cubic meters. It maintains the 33% reduced rate to a large consumer here for wastewater, recognizing water volumes used in packaged products that do not enter the wastewater system. And it also incorporates a primary objective of the 2015 rate study, which was to increase the proportion of our fixed fees as compared to variable fees. So we actually will achieve that goal of 40% fixed with our 2023 budget. Next slide shows the projected fixed rates for the study timeframe. So really this just reflects a 3% increase across the various sizes of fixtures. Next slide, please. This shows in detail the variable rates. So again, this reflects a 3% increase across the board for all main user types. The average annual dollar impact to those various types of users is also reflected here. The total estimated water and wastewater fee for a residential property with average consumption volumes is about $1,082 for 2023. The projected annual fee for the 10-year planning period grows to $1,412 by 2032. So the goals of our rate study are primary is full cost recovery. So user rates for both water and wastewater should sustain both services. The rate structure employed should be appropriate for our customer base. We have a target annual life cycle allocation of 2.5 million for water and 3.0 million per year for wastewater. So our 10-year operating and capital projections require roughly these amounts to be contributed to the reserve funds annually. We targeted the annual increase of something that is reasonable, recognizing recent inflationary pressures and affordability for users. So we do note that the CPI consumer price index has been in the 5 to 6% range the past 2 years. Construction price index has been 15 to 20% in the past 2 years. And the general municipal tax rate increase for 2023 was 3.86%. And we also, of course, want to maintain the 40-60 split in fees in our fees stream between fixed fees and variable fees. And that strikes a balance for us between reliable, predictable funding to support these services while also encouraging conservation. We perform a rate sensitivity analysis with every update. So generally this can be a complex exercise or it can be an easy exercise depending on what we want to change with the rate structure. So fortunately for this go around, we are not recommending changes with the rate structure. So it's a relatively easy exercise. Again, we're recommending maintaining the current rate structure, which provides us a reliable, predictable funding while encouraging conservation. We're including the declining block rate for large water users, and we have a wastewater reduction for one particular large user and our food packaging. So we do recommend scenario A, 3% increase for both fixed and variable rates for both water and wastewater services. The impact to various types of users is also shown here. Typical residential property would see an increase of about $32 for the year in 2024. It is important to note that the rate increases within the study are based on projections and that actual rates will be established during the annual budget process. So this slide details the cumulative operating budgets for both water and wastewater for the 10-year period. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, but I would like to highlight that water purchases line item in that first column, bulk water purchases from the City of Windsor. This is the largest single expenditure line item. It's subject to our 50-year agreement with the city, which includes potential rate adjustments at each 10-year anniversary. So the next potential rate adjustment is in 2026, so that could impact our projections. Within the wastewater contracts, which includes our wastewater treatment costs, this is the largest single expenditure line item again. This is for treatment services provided by the City of Windsor. Annual rates are based on an agreement with the city, and rate increases are reflective of plant costs and volumes treated in the prior year. So annual increases historically have fluctuated up and down, however, with average annual increases close to CPI. However, with the exception of the past 2 years where we have seen rather large increases of 18% and 24% respectively. Transfers to reserve funds is last item I'd want to highlight. So in water, it shows a cumulative amount of roughly 25 million and wastewater of about 31 million. And that is how we get the 2.5 and $3 million targets. So that is in line with our annual targets. On this slide, we detail the cumulative capital budgets for both water and wastewater for the 10-year period. So it takes into consideration Council's capital workshop exercise that spanned 2021-2022. Our department's 5-year capital plans. The study was updated just recently to include our adopted 2023 to 2027 5-year capital plans, and also incorporates our 2021 asset management plan update and our 2019 DC background study update for capital expenditures beyond 5 years. You'll note that there's an average of 7.3 million annually combined for the next 10-year period in capital expenditures. So this highlights the significant capital expenditure plans in place. Much of it is related to growth and development. This is much higher than normal for our annual capital expenditure for these two areas. And yeah, the Public Works total annual, for reference, the Public Works total annual capital expenditure was around 10 million during years 2010 to 2019. So the next couple of slides will deal with our reserve funds, and this one will deal with our development charge reserve funds. So you'll note that both are currently in deficit positions. The 10-year projection suggests that the deficit positions for both of these reserve funds will continue to grow. So this is not totally unexpected. Development will require significant financial investment upfront. Development charges are collected afterwards as development occurs. We did take into consideration some legislative impacts. So Bill 23, for example, not really factored into our calculations as a lot of the outcome is unknown at this time.
Just before you continue, Tom, just on that, I mean, obviously, those dollars, like we've been borrowing against wastewater, those reserves, obviously, to advance some of the projects that we've done, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
And so we're basically trying to recoup those through future development charges.
That's correct. Right.
So my question is that when you figure that out over the next X number of years as development goes, I mean, obviously inflation, this and that, is that accounted into those dollars, or are we paying back the dollars that they were valued at the day that we've utilized the dollars?
So good question. The DC rates are indexed every year, so they do increase with the construction price index. So that does allow us an opportunity to increase the rate every year. So the rate study updates that fee on a 5-year basis, but within those 5 years, we do increase it annually based on the construction price index.
Okay.
So that does allow us.
So in
some
other words, we're not
protection.
going to fall further behind in terms, because rate of inflation will be picked up in the development from as the years progress.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and the next slide is our water and wastewater reserve funds. So as the mayor alluded to, so these reserve funds have essentially been funding a lot of the growth projects. So the 10-year projection shows that these reserve funds should grow over the planning period of this study. The growth projected is good, so potentially placing the reserve funds at balances around 25 million and 30 million by 2032. Oh, sorry, but both to around 25 million. However, it must be noted that current balances of 16 million and 6 million are inadequate based on our infrastructure gap calculations. So there's more detail on that on the next slide. It's also important to note that these projections do not assume any senior government transfer payments. So this is extremely conservative, as we do expect that there will be grant programs to support these services to some extent. So just a little bit about asset life cycle. So this is considered a best practice. So this is the basis of our annual contributions to reserve funds to support asset replacement. So it's important to note that this does not consider new infrastructure, just replacement of existing infrastructure. Factors taken into consideration include inflation, expected useful life, estimated replacement values. The current infrastructure gap calculation is rather large. You'll see it's 51 million in water, 90 million in wastewater for a total of 141 million. These figures are based on present value calculations that assume replacement of all infrastructure. So of course, we don't have plans to do that today. And there are also many moving parts. So there's many moving parts to the study and these calculations. However, it is still a good measure to gauge adequacy of reserve fund balances and plans as compared to book values. Okay, so this slide is just a little bit more detail on asset life cycle. So details total replacement value of the entire systems and estimated replacement value of assets during the plan's 10-year period. These estimates are all based on the age of assets. The replacements are based on remaining useful life. So it's not necessarily tied to our capital plans and does not consider new infrastructure. So this is strictly replacement. So it's really an exercise, kind of a book exercise to be a gauge of how well we're setting aside funds. It is one measure. It provides two life cycle requirement calculations. One's an annual life cycle requirement, which takes replacement value divided by the normal life in years to get an annual amount that should be set aside. The end of useful life calculation is also used, and that's the figure that's used for our infrastructure gap. And that is used, the end of useful life is determined by dividing the replacement cost by the remaining years of useful life. So usually this is a larger value. So I've got asset replacement. Oh, yes. So this slide details projected capital expenditures for water mains and sewers for the entire system, going out a lengthy period over 60+ years. It includes water mains and sanitary sewers. Great deal of estimation and inflation involved, so it's not something that we'll go over in great detail. Calculations are based on remaining useful life of existing infrastructure, so it will not tie to existing capital plans. So it is a book exercise that can be used to provide a high-level estimate future funding requirements and would be used to follow up with condition assessments. So we have a volume forecast here. So we're showing some projected growth of 11% and 14%. The importance of this slide really rests with our agreements with the city for both bulk water purchase and wastewater treatment. So our 10-year projections incorporated estimated growth from our council capital workshops, where growth in 3 specific development areas was calculated using some general assumptions. Both of these are well within our agreement limits with the city. And that volume forecast, of course, is driven by our customer forecast. So this is another key component of our study. So to determine growth, volume growth figures stem from this customer forecast. Again, assumptions here stem from our 2021-2022 Council Capital Workshop exercise. Assumptions show modest growth in 2023 through 2026 that gradually builds over the 10-year period. And finally, our next steps. So we'll have the next 2 weeks or more, if required, to receive feedback from council and the public, if there are any, with our draft rate study. As I mentioned, the study will be placed on the town's website by end of day tomorrow. We will circulate the study directly to council members. Administration will collect and consider any feedback that we receive, provided that feedback will not require significant amendments to the study as presented. A council report may be brought back to council as early as May 9th, allowing for adoption of the study. And then, once that's done, there's actually more work to do. So once the study is finalized, it will be used to complete the next DWQMS financial plan, which is due in Q4 of 2023. Thank you. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Barrett. Tom, in terms of when you do these studies, is this on an annual or biannual? Like, I know the last one, you had a date in here. After this is done, when's the next one proposed? Because you have a 10-year forecast in terms of 3%, 3%. And those targets, are those targets able to be manipulated? Like, are you able to do a 4% or 2% as we go over that 10-year span is my question? Or is that just, it's going to be 3% no matter what happens, what goes on?
And through the mayor to the deputy mayor. So no, we definitely would not just proceed with those increases. So it's basically a starting point for us. So during the budget process, the annual budget process, we'll review the prior year's activity, how our reserve funds are faring, and what our projections are for the upcoming year. And we'll base our recommendation for the rate increases off of that, of the study and our analysis of the year and in the budget process. So next update, this study is generally updated every 5 years. So although we do project 10 years, it is updated every 5 years. As mentioned earlier, we were to update this previously, but of course, due to COVID, it got postponed. But our next update would be expected in 2028.
Very good. And all these studies are coming together because, again, if we're going to experience growth in the next 2-3 years, having this foundation financial is going to bode well for our community. Thank you.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's the 28, that's about 2 years after our next rate base with the city.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, before the next study update, the next planned study update, we will go through that potential rate adjustment process with the city. Important to note that we can update the study sooner than that if we choose. We did update the study in 2011, 1 year after the 2010 study update. So if there is something unusual that happens or comes to light, then for sure we would update the study. So as mentioned earlier, the study is primarily based on a rate structure. So if something should change in our community that would suggest that we should make a change to our rate structure, then that would call for an update, an earlier update.
Go ahead, Councilor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And when you were asking the question about the reserve funds, One question that I have is, and we're seeing here, we're going to be in a deeper position in the DC reserve funds in 10 years than we are today. And is that, I'm thinking that we would be in maybe better position because we're poised to have more growth, but is it the fact that, you know, infrastructure has to go on the ground and we're projecting that the full build out of the areas that we've invested in have not quite, you know, fully come to fruition, and that's why it's in worse position than we are today?
Through the mayor to Councillor Houston. Yeah, that's exactly it. So we do anticipate in the next 5 years, some significant expenditures, capital expenditures that are growth related. So that will be a big spend for us in the upcoming 5 years. Our development, our reserve, our DC collections that we've incorporated in the study are based off that exercise that we went through in 2021, 2022. And we were, I'd say, fairly conservative in our estimates of growth. So we don't want to be overly optimistic. So, you know, the numbers, of course, will reveal themselves annually, and we could perform better for sure. Or, you know, we don't know, but I think the estimates that we used at the time we thought were reasonable.
I think the key word here is conservative. You know, it's like golf, you know, when you look at the distance, you see that little flag, it gives you hope. And so it's kind of, that's the way I look. I'll do it again. Move the report. Councillor Jobin, Councillor Houston, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Track. Delegations. All right, we'll move on to communications. Members of council, we got items 1 to 4. If I could have a motion to receive. Councillor Higginson moves and Councillor Jobin support. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Any communications, council you'd like to pull? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, item 3, if I'm not sure if Beth or your department can forward that letter to the area local schools. I know it's a provincial day of cleanup, and I know May 9th is a Tuesday, it's a school day. There may be some schools that participate, so it's kind of one of those things that just to get them for information. I know we have an email contact list of schools, just to maybe if we can send that out, and there may be some that participate.
Yeah, the clerk's office, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe members of council are available in the morning and that we can pick a park and do our part. Okay. So do you want a motion on number 3? Yeah, well, because of Councillor Jobin's declaration early, can we separate the committee minutes on number 1? The Shuttleworth Drain and the Sullivan Creek drains. So Shuttleworth is. Yeah. No, but I'm just saying which one. Okay. Sullivan, okay, I'll use the Shuttleworth Drain, moved by Councillor Higginson, supported Councillor Houston. All in favor, opposed, that's carried. The Sullivan Creek Drain recommendation moved by Councillor Houston, Councillor Dorner. All in favor, opposed, if any, that is carried. Move on to by Policies and Priorities Committee, April 11th. Recommendation that the April 11th minutes of the Policies Priorities Committee meeting as were duplicated and delivered to the members be adopted. Counselor Houston, Counselor Jobin, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Okay, we'll move on to Tecumseh Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes of April the 6th. On those minutes, moved by Counselor Houston, Counselor Dorner, support. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Police Services Board, April 3rd. Oh, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's some action related to those minutes
Mhm.
that I don't think we passed with just the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, move the minutes and that. Council give consideration to support the following initiatives in honor of National Accessibility Week, May 29th to June 4th, to include flag raising ceremony, which was done last year, by the way, Tecumseh Town Hall on Monday, May 29th, 2023 at 10 a.m. And that the flag be raised for the duration of the week of May 29th to June 4th. Administration in collaboration with TAC members develop a social media campaign and raise public awareness on accessibility in the community to be posted during the week, and also illuminate Town Hall in the color of red for the accessibility. On the motion, moved by Councillor Higginson, Councillor Houston. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment that we'd love to see members of council when we raise the flag. I will unfortunately be away because I'm attending a conference, which makes me sad. So I would love to see some photos of everybody there to support the members and those of us in the community that are experiencing accessibility. So thank you very much.
You'll be there in spirit, so. All right. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Police Services Board, April 3rd, recommendation that the April 3rd, 2023 minutes of Police Services Board meeting as reduplicated and delivered to the members be accepted. Councillor Houston, Councillor Dorner, on any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Move on to reports. Our first reports from our Community and Recreation Services, Ms. Geniak, and that's report CRS 2023-06, the e-scooter pilot program. Bring that report forward, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm pleased to present a report to you tonight's report, and that report CRS 2023-06 e-scooter pilot program be received, and that council consider for an approval an e-scooter pilot program from May to September 2023 with services to be provided by Bird Canada Incorporated, and further that a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a service agreement between the town of Tecumseh and Bird Canada Inc. in a form satisfactory to the town solicitor to provide an e-scooter pilot program be considered at the May 9th regular council meeting. I'd like to provide a bit of background. At the regular council meeting, September 13th, 2022, a notice of motion directed administration to investigate the possibility of a pilot project with vendors who might be able to provide public access for e-scooters or e-bikes as an alternative mode of transportation on a pay-to-ride basis, and report back to council with options and budget implications. This report is in response to that notice of motion. We conducted research over the past number of months and have concluded that a stand-up e-scooter or e-bike vendor would only be interested in a pilot project in Tecumseh if there was an opportunity to leverage an existing program in Windsor, or if there was a county-wide program involving all of the other communities in Essex County. In 2022, the City of Windsor entered into an agreement with Bird Canada after several years of pilot programs to provide these e-scooters and e-bikes. In 2023, the City of Windsor did enter into a formal agreement with Bird Canada to provide e-scooters and e-bikes throughout Windsor up to the shared boundaries between Windsor and Tecumseh. On learning of that information, staff have had discussions with both the City of Windsor and Bird Canada to determine the feasibility of operating a pilot program for e-scooters here in Tecumseh, leveraging that opportunity and that new agreement between the City of Windsor and Bird. to provide an opportunity for the residents of our town here in Tecumseh an experience with e-scooters. There would be a limited geographic boundary. Speed limits need to comply with existing speed limits on pathways, and use of the scooters would be in alignment and in compliance with how bicycles actually use our pathways and sidewalks and streets. So based on an evaluation of that opportunity, we are recommending that a limited number of scooters, e-scooters, about 30 scooters, would be provided by Bird Canada for the residents of Tecumseh for the period May 19th to September 30th for an initial pilot program. Expansion of the scooter system into e-bikes and or more scooters would be evaluated as part of the pilot program assessment, which our team would undertake later this fall. Bird Canada is responsible for supplying, operating, maintaining, managing, marketing, financing, and reporting under the e-scooter sharing system under the guidelines of a service agreement that we would develop, as mentioned in the recommendations, for this 4-month pilot to operate on town property at agreed upon locations. These are geofenced as described below. The service area is bound by the Riverfront Pathway to the north, Brighton Road to the east, Tecumseh Road and or County Road 2022 to the south, and significantly, a seamless boundary to the town boundary between Tecumseh and Windsor, allowing residents of both communities to access nearly 50 kilometers of pathways, which traverse both of our communities on that eastern or western boundary of Tecumseh. E-scooter parking stations would be provided therefore at Tecumseh Town Hall and Lakewood Park South. The scooter station here would allow folks to jump on the pathway system here at McNorton McHugh and get access into the extensive Little River Pathway in Windsor, and then loop around onto the Ganacho Trail and the Lakeway Trail, and hopefully end up at Lakewood Park South having had a wonderful ride. The pilot will provide the town of Tecumseh we would provide them exclusive access to sidewalks and other agreed upon municipal lands to carry out the pilot program. All of this is done in accordance with town bylaws and governed by rules applying to bicycles and applicable provincial laws. This would all be described and articulated in the service agreement. It's important to note that Bird Canada provides this pilot program at no cost to the town of Tecumseh and will provide proof of insurance, etc., including commercial general liability insurance, automobile insurance coverage, etc., as described in the report. Bird Canada will also provide an education plan to educate customers on user services, proper riding behavior, how to operate and park devices, traffic and helmet laws. The Bird app also identifies much of their education plan, so users would be able to understand those same proper riding etiquette, etc., through the Bird app. Bird is also responsible to maintain all of the devices in a safe and functional state. They do have to inspect the parking stations at least once a day. They need to replace damaged and or unsafe and or unfunctioning scooters within 4 hours of noticing that. And since all of the scooters are actually geotagged, Bird Canada has an opportunity and an ability to actually identify and locate any scooter at any given point on any given day for the duration of the pilot. And this is important because part of the agreement would say that pedestrian obstructions or safety concerns need to be removed within 4 hours of either ourselves notifying Bird and or Bird recognizing that there's an obstruction through their own geolocating technology. They would also be able to identify if a device is parked in non-permitted areas, as we've described in the report, which include blocking sidewalks, vehicle parking spaces, traveled portions of roadways, curb ramps, or pedestrian push button for a traffic signal. They also can't be within designated bus stop zones. Tipped devices should be uprighted within the hour. And most importantly, devices which have traversed the boundary between Tecumseh and Windsor, and which might be parked in Windsor, if they're from Tecumseh, need to be relocated to the town of Tecumseh within 24 hours. So what that means is if you get on a scooter here in Tecumseh and you take it into Windsor and you leave it in Windsor, Bird will return it to its Tecumseh location within 24 hours. So the service agreement will outline all of this, all of these details and then some. And lastly, we want to indicate here that this is a pay to play program. All of this is managed by Bird Canada. While there is no cost to the town, there's also no revenue coming to the town. User fees are currently projected for an initial trip fee of $2.50, then 42 cents per minute. There is also an opportunity to provide an equity pricing program to ensure that folks who might need additional assistance with pricing, such as seniors, low-income residents, veterans, et cetera, can have access to reduced rates. Application forms to access that equity program are available through the Bird Canada app, and proof of documentation would be required by the user to Bird Canada. So all of which to say, Bird is actually providing this. It's their program, it's their scooters. We're providing them with access to our space, and they are 100% responsible for the operation and data management. We also will receive data reports weekly, so that we'll have an understanding of how many people are in fact using the scooters, where in fact they might be going, if there are any problems or any challenges that Bird is experiencing. And if there is a demand for more scooters, then we would have an opportunity to actually re-engage Bird in a conversation for the provision of additional scooters during the pilot period. At this point, I'll stop and see if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation. If I get support, I'd speak to it.
Supported by Councillor Higginson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Beth, for this report this evening. I know this time last year, the mayor and I were in Saskatchewan, and we were at a booth and we're talking to the vendor at the time, and competitor of Bird, but we thought, wouldn't this fit in our community, and it would be well received. And again, not only parks, but planning, because planning did a lot of the trails, and public works are installing them. So as a town is developing these connecting links, offering this mode of active mode of transportation would be a welcome environment. And so we brought it back to our CAO at our mayor's admin meeting. Ms. Evans said to be patient, and lo and behold, the report's here in due time, because again, these are seasonal activities. And in the report tonight, I really like the inclusivity, allowing us to cross different borders. And I know after we look at this report tonight, if it gets approved, I know the municipality of Lakeshore is interested as well. So we could have the whole North Shore, even more kilometers being able to be used for our residents. So thank you again for the report, and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Higginson.
Thank you very much. And through you, I'm excited to see this, and I'll echo Deputy Mayor's. I'm excited to see that we can make connections between municipalities. I'm thrilled to hear that other municipalities connecting us on the other side are looking at that too. In the report, there was mention specifically of Bird being responsible for an education campaign. And I'm wondering if there's sort of a program that they run, or are they willing to kind of make some changes specific to the community? I'm thinking particularly of those connections, and thinking of this as almost an extension of transit, a way that we can think about options for people in the community and in between communities, and if there's an option to be able to adjust the education campaign to talk about that, and also to educate residents on some of the things that we may anticipate as complaints that may come in, scooters dumped on their lawns and things in the middle of trails and things like that. Will those be part of the education campaign?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, all of those items are typical items for Bird in their communities where they are operating. They are often asked to make connections to active transportation plans, in particular transit nodes. And so we would be working with them to share with them what our busing routes are and why we chose the locations we chose. In fact, Town Council was a specific selection because of its proximity to transit, and that it is a part of the transit route. Yes, we would also be working with them to talk about any specific concerns that we might have. We know that scooter dumping, scooters being left behind is how I prefer to think of it, while people are indoors having fun, perhaps at a barbecue. educating people in terms of that. People can leave scooters on lawns. They just can't leave them on sidewalks. We do assume that if people are using the scooters to go and visit their friends, that their friends would know that they're arriving with a scooter, and they may welcome their scooters to be parked on their driveways or on their lawns. So yeah, we'll be working with Bird to customize any aspects of their education program that might be necessary and needed. And my two amigos here and I, who consider ourselves the three amigos when it comes to the active transportation plan, we're quite interested in understanding more through this pilot how people are interested in expanding their consideration of mobility in our community. Thank you.
And Councilor Donor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So this is a great initiative. I'm already hearing positive things online. I just want to clarify, what responsibilities or liabilities does the town have with these e-scooters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the liability is entirely Bird's responsibility. Part of the arrangement here is that they have to cover the insurance. They have to and will be liable for any issues that are involving the scooters. And this would result in things like this. If someone were to see a scooter and ask a town staff person to pick that scooter up and move it, if we were to do that and something were to be damaged in the process, then the town would be liable. So it's why Bird has a program that says within X number of hours, 1 to 4 to 24 hours, that they deal with their property. So town staff are not able to move the property or touch the property. And if we do so, then we would be in contravention of any liability agreement that we would be entering into with Bird.
All right, yeah, thank you. And you mentioned there was a veterans discount?
Yes, so part of what Bird does is provide their equity pay is for veterans, seniors, and low-income residents. And they have that available on their app, and we'll be asking them to activate that feature on their app.
Right on, yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. I think it's a great opportunity. I want to thank you for negotiating this deal with Bird. I think fully accepting responsibility and so forth, and setting up for a 4-month window. 2019, I was in Scandinavia countries, and my grandson was studying in Sweden, and so I toured Stockholm and Oslo, Norway with him. My wife wouldn't get on the scooter, but and it was a fun way to get around the community and that, and I always mentioned before in terms of all of our own trails connecting communities, and I think that's a key factor. And the more trails that we put in, you're going to see more opportunities of people wanting, to take part of that. And it was kind of nice to see it even over there in Europe, where it was transgenerational. It wasn't just 16-year-old kids. It was everybody, and it was a great way to see the town. And then eventually we got back to our hotel and we left it there, and that was it. And so they're all GPS monitored, and you're absolutely correct. If they're stationary in one area over a period of time, they come in and collect them. And so it's really quite an operation, and so forth. So I know the deputy mayor and we already got our helmets, so now we're ready to go. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor, opposed if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, we dealt with Golden Age Club issue, development services, the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund. This is, I think, something very interesting and exciting, and planning consultant for preparation of a housing action plan and grant application. I believe, Mr. Hillman, you're gonna speak on this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will. Thank you. So a report has been provided on the agenda. And I'll just go over it in a very high level nature. You really hit the matter at hand with your opening comments, but the federal government has announced as of March a $4 billion housing accelerator fund. They've been speaking of this for some time, and we've been watching for it to be announced, and we're quite pleased to see it. Their objective is that the fund will have the impact of creating 100,000 housing units across Canada over a 4-year period. And really what caught our eye on this is that the program is very much supported to priorities that we think match with the town's priorities, and that's the development of complete communities that are walkable, appropriate residential densities, mix of land uses, access to a variety of amenities and services through public and active transportation, and also the development of affordable, inclusive, equitable, diverse communities, and support development that's low carbon and climate resilient. So the use of the funding is very interesting for the municipality, given the capital works initiatives that were approved by council last year and are just now being implemented. So they basically include 4 areas for funding opportunities, and that's initiatives that are included in a housing action plan that has to be developed and approved by CMHC, approved by town council first. Investments in affordable housing, investments in housing related infrastructure, and that includes for drinking water, wastewater infrastructure, public transit, capacity building, which could be staffing, improved processes for application reviews, investment in community related infrastructure that supports housing, including roads, bridges, sidewalks, fire halls, landscaping, and green space. So you can see that the funding envelope is quite broad, and I think we think fits quite nicely in with the future objectives of the municipality. However, in order to enter into the funding portal, we must have a housing action plan, which the municipality currently does not. And in fact, most municipalities, based on the information we've seen in some of the webinars that we've attended, are in the same situation. This isn't sort of a little gap that we have here in Tecumseh. I think part of the initiative that the federal government is putting on the table is they'd like to see us more engaged as municipalities in housing, and an action plan is a way of really forcing a focus on the issue. So to get funding, the carrot is complete the action plan. The action plan is intended to provide housing supply growth targets, targets for different types of housing, and include 7 initiatives that will help achieve the committed targets. Really, the intention of the program is to say, if over a 4-year period, we had anticipated a certain level of housing development, can we get 10 or 20% increase? So if we are anticipating 100 housing units over the next per year, there's a funding envelope available if we can get 10% or more housing, and funding is provided on the basis of how many additional units you can provide. Then that funding can go towards some of the items that I had just noted. In order to achieve this and get into the application process, we will have to assess the municipality's local context, housing challenges, housing needs report, which Windsor Essex has just completed one, and we think we can use that as the basis for establishing a baseline Tecumseh housing needs assessment. We'll have to look at program initiatives. Ultimately, over the next month of May, finalize a housing action plan, bring it back for council approval, and then submit the relevant materials to CMHC, who will actually review the documentation and confirm its validity. We will then look at a formal application submission for funding. And the intent is currently that the window could open as early as June of this year for applications, and final communications out to successful applications by late summer, and possible applications and agreements of contribution agreements being executed in the fall. So ultimately, where we've landed on this, given the amount of work to be undertaken in the short period of time to complete a housing action plan, and the submission of a funding for the Housing Accelerator Fund, we're recommending to council that we retain a planning consultant. The costs associated with that would be up to $30,000. And the proposal is that the work will be completed over the next month. The plan will be brought forward for council consideration and an application placed. The funding is proposed to come from the tax rate stabilization reserve, which is sufficiently in a good state of affairs to support that. And we just note in the report that at the time of our budget being prepared for 2023, of course, it wasn't clear that this program was proceeding, and of course we didn't have funding. So the recommendation, Mr. Mayor, is reflective of that, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Hillman, in the accelerator fund itself, part of the criteria, and they're talking about land acquisition, planners, building officials, all part of their program. Is there a recovery mechanism, or is this here our commitment? The 30,000, which which certainly I would recommend that we do. But is there a possibility through the application be successful that we could recoup that money?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it wasn't evident that that was possible. But to your point, there is a statement regarding capacity building, e-permitting, and so on. So we think, first of all, there is a strong alignment with some staffing issues that are being looked at in order to accommodate the growth projected. Technology that we are currently bringing on in the building services area, we would consider expanding to other areas that could be offset through funding. And interestingly, there's a broad spectrum of capital projects that would appear to be available for funding that could help with accelerating the housing that's anticipated in a number of greenfield areas through the town. So, you know, we really do view the $30,000 as an investment to funds that could be substantial. And it would appear that this housing action plan may support future funding programs. I think it would seem this is where they're heading in terms of aligning their clear objectives with municipalities who have a plan to deliver.
So basically, really, it's an investment at the front end of that, but then there's a whole host of other opportunities that under traditional, you know, you'd be responsible for a whole host of other things that there's the potential of getting dollars to help support moving forward.
That's correct.
Further questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Higginson and Councillor Dorner.
Thanks very much. This is very exciting to think about. I take your point that there are other municipalities in a similar circumstance. And so do we anticipate that it will be challenging to find a consultant if everybody else is sort of vying for the same thing at the same time in order to catch up like we are quickly? And if we pass this tonight, how quickly do we imagine that we'll get somebody?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, very good question. And really, before we brought the report, we wanted to have ourselves positioned so that we weren't creating an expectation that couldn't be delivered. So we're quite confident that we have a very suitable consultant available, and the competition is very difficult, but we tried to, you know, through discussions with the CAO, lock that up to an extent as much as we could, hopeful that this would go through, understanding it's a very challenging environment out there.
Thanks very much. I know we'll probably find ourselves in that position as many more times. So I appreciate the forethought on looking at that. And I think even just having a housing action plan toward this end is exciting. And then thinking of all the other ways we can use something like that. I think about it from a school board perspective of how we anticipate growth. I think those would be really helpful things to have for the municipality to have access to. So definitely in favor.
Councillor Dorner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So where will the town of Tecumseh and its residents see the biggest impact from all the funding?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, that's an interesting question. Not clear at this time, I would say. The scope of funding opportunities is, I would say, significant. So we've had very preliminary discussions with every arm of the organization, of course, the CAO's office, Public Works, Parks, Fire, areas that are, the program seems to be indicating there's funding available to support infrastructure and services that help support additional housing. You know, immediately we start thinking about some of our greenfield sites, which are very challenged with some infrastructure improvements that are required to support an advanced and accelerated rate of housing. It could be that we find programs that are suitable in the CIP area. But I think it's safe to say there's a breadth of opportunities, just not clear where the municipality and what service areas might be benefiting. But what we'll bring back to council ultimately is a sort of a picture on what is the housing action plan going to propose. Council will have an opportunity to have input on that. And then what sort of applications and service areas can best get us across the finish line to advance a housing scheme that meets the federal government anticipated growth expectations. So I think more to come on that to really fully answer that.
Yeah, thank you. Understood.
Go ahead, Madam CEO.
Thank you. I just want to, through the mayor, I just want to build on Brian's response. So, we have identified growth areas within the town, and we also have infill and intensification that can occur within the existing built up areas. So I think that's the purpose of the housing action plan, is to kind of reformat all of that into what the federal government is asking for, and identifying that in collaboration with council. So I think we're well situated because of the heavy lifting that council has done over the last year or two with its capital programming to identify areas of growth over the next 5 to 10 years.
This almost reminds me of going back to the 1980s, where a lot of monies were made available for co-ops and nonprofits. Monies were kind of put in there, and monies were there to help them develop their plans and hire planners and a whole host of things. The difference on this one is basically taking that opportunity and putting it on to the municipal sector. And so it's kind of reminiscent of those days where, that type of housing was available to the special groups. If you remember Zoc and Associates and those groups out of London. And anyway, this is what reminds me of it. But I think we have an opportunity here, a big opportunity here, as we alluded to in the conversation we just had, and the delegation here, where we can certainly do a lot in terms of improving the housing stock that I think we deserve in the community, because we're always dependent on the service manager out of the city and so forth. And I know that's been a very difficult push, because you're really dealing now with 3 levels of government. You got the city, you've got the county, and then us. And then we're always striving to get the nickel, from the service manager. This here is a great opportunity to go just directly, to the federal government and get dollars available that'll benefit our community first. Okay, further questions, comments? Not on the report. Adoption moved by Councillor Higginson, supported by Councillor Dorner. No further questions and comments. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Legislative and clerk services, revisions to bylaws 2023-46 and 2023-47.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the April 11th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting, council received reports from legislative services on, and enclosed with that report was a draft mobile food vendor bylaw and a draft seasonal patios bylaw. Discussion was held on both those bylaws, and coming out of that discussion, administration reviewed further a couple of issues that were raised from that meeting, which led to revisions to both of those bylaws. So just going to briefly cover each of those right now. With respect to the patio bylaw, at the April 11th meeting, it was discussed as to whether existing permanent patios on private lands should be subject to a yearly application and approval process. And certainly after reviewing now a little bit further, it is now recommended that permanent patios on private lands that are specifically licensed by the AGCO should not be subject to the annual application and fee under the proposed bylaw. And that's because while the AGCO as of January 1st no longer provides authorization for temporary patios and temporary extensions of existing patios for AGCO licensees, the AGCO does still receive applications and provide authorizations for patios that are, as they described, for patios that are to be a permanent physical extension of an AGCO licensed premises. And so as part of receiving that licensed approval for that permanent patio, that is that physical extension of the licensed premises, the applicant already undergoes an inspection process, including obtaining requisite municipal approvals. And so certainly to subject the permanent patios to a yearly application and approval process would be redundant. However, at the same time, permanent patios, it's proposed that permanent patios must still otherwise remain in compliance with the ongoing requirements in this existing bylaw. So specifically, the patio requirements that are stated in Schedule A to the bylaw. And certainly this will help to ensure that such patios remain in a satisfactory condition. And together with bylaw enforcement having that authority to look at those issues as they come up, you know, whether it's on a complaint driven basis or otherwise. And then certainly on the other hand, temporary patios will still require an annual approval and payment of associated fee. And that's simply due to the transient nature or changing nature of those structures from year to year. And so because those structures are going up and down year to year, they'll require, you know, that application process and inspections to ensure yearly compliance with the bylaw. The only other change that was made to this proposed bylaw is the other item that came out of the AGCO is for temporary patios, the period that the municipality can authorize can be a period of up to 8 months. So we just changed the application to reflect that period. Before we had a specifically defined period of time, but it can be for a period of time of up to 8 months. So we changed the definitions to reflect that. The second bylaw, the mobile food vendors bylaw, it was discussed at that meeting whether it was just to charge a fee to a owner or operator of a refreshment vehicle, as we're calling it under the bylaw, of that food vendor or refreshment vehicle, if the private property location being applied for, because again, these licenses are limited to a particular licensed location. If that private property location being applied for is at an eating establishment that's owned and operated by the same person. So there was some feeling that may not be fair for in that particular scenario where the food vendor and the owner of the restaurant, or as the case may be, are one and the same. So we added a provision to reflect that, such that the licensing fee shall not be applicable. But certainly the applicant would still need to otherwise be in conformance with the terms and conditions of the bylaw and the requirements of the bylaw. Other than that, there was essentially just other minor clarification changes made to the bylaw, but those are the two main issues that came out of the April 11th meeting that we attempted to address. And so recommendation for tonight is for both of those bylaws, 2023-046 relating to outdoor temporary patios and extensions, and bylaw 2023-047 mobile food vendors, that they each be considered for 3 readings this evening. And further, that approval be given to an amendment to bylaw 2022-099, the fees and charges bylaws, and with the amendments being to include the fees related to mobile food vendors and for temporary patios. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions council may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Houston.
Just a quick comment and through you to the clerk. Thank you very much for making the revisions. They seem fair and I appreciate we had the conversation and it kind of resulted in these changes. So I'm happy to move the report.
All right, thank you, Councilor Houston. Do I have support? Councilor Dorner. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next on the docket is Public Works and Engineering Services larviciding for the 2023 West Nile virus program. Pretty straightforward. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in summary of the report that's in front of council this evening, so legislation requires the medical officer of health to conduct a risk assessment in order to determine whether action is required by municipalities to decrease the risk of West Nile virus. Since 2003, the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit has conducted an annual comprehensive surveillance program. Given that West Nile virus continues to be found in the mosquito population in Windsor-Essex, The Windsor Essex County Health Unit Medical Officer of Health has therefore effected a formal notice of action dated April 4th, 2023 to decrease the risk of West Nile virus in Essex County. The health unit has selected Pestalto Environmental Health Services as the consultant provider for the 2023 West Nile virus larviciding program for Windsor Essex County. The town will provide correspondence to the Ministry of Environment and Pestalto authorizing the application of larvicides in the water bodies found to contain mosquito species known to transmit the West Nile virus within the town of Tecumseh itself. Similar to past practice, the health unit will coordinate this program and invoice each municipality for their share of the costs. The 2023 Public Works operational budget included $6,000 for the town's cost based on the historic 75-25% cost sharing between the province and the town. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'll move the recommendations.
Thank you. Support. Councillor Dorner, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. All right, and we, Public Works emergency, environmental. Yeah, it's like an emergency with, no, Public Works Environmental Services 2023-35. Our Tecumseh Hamlet, I'm not taking away your job, Chief. Hamlet, it's the, I believe Northwest, or what is it? NW Water and Wastewater. Northwest, yeah, I guess I'm right. Infrastructure Project Award for Engineering Consultant Services. Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. As council may recall, at the February 28th RCM meeting earlier this year, council approved the budget and expanded scope for this project to help facilitate development within the Tecumseh Hamlet area. These works included contract number 1, which was the installation of trunk sanitary and water main through the Tecumseh Hamlet area from County Road 22 to Intersection Road, as well as the road reconstruction of Intersection Road, along with the trunk sanitary, water main, and storm sewers from the hamlet to Les Bronx Road. Construction is slated to commence in early 2024. The second part to that contract was the installation of trunk sanitary and water main through the hamlet from Intersection Road just south of the Hydro 1 corridor and south of the CP rail. Construction is tentatively scheduled for early 2025. A request for proposal was posted on the town's bids and tenders account and closed on March 23rd. The town received 3 proposals. The RFPs, the proposals were reviewed by the selection committee, which comprised of town staff members, and evaluated each proposal on its own merit according to the evaluation criteria, which included understanding of the scope, proposed implementation plan, relevant project experience, project manager, project staff, contract administrator, and fees. After the evaluation by the selection committee, the following rankings were determined. Stantec Consulting was first, SEMA Canada was second, and Dillon Consulting was in third. The engineering consulting services includes preliminary design, obtaining all necessary approvals, detailed design, preparation of tender documents, contract admin, and inspection during construction. Stantec's proposal of $1,155,465 is below the budgeted amount for the engineering consulting services within the overall project's allocated budget, and it is under budget by just shy of $700,000. The recommendations with this report is that council award the consulting services for the Tecumseh Hamlet Secondary Plan Area Northwest Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Project in the amount of $1,155,465, excluding HST, to Stantec Consulting Limited, and that bylaw 2023-53 be given the first, second, third, and final reading to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement satisfactory in form to the town solicitor with Stantec Consulting Limited. Be happy to answer any questions.
700,000 under budget. Good job. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Phil, when you have the RFPs in there, does it have timelines too? When, you look at the consultants, because someone can be the lower price, but they're busy and, is there a time period where they have to complete the work or?
Through your worship, yes, we do. The proposal is very specific on the time period. It's specific on the scope of the project, what the town is actually requesting, along with the timelines that we're proposing. And in most cases, if the timelines cannot be met, or if they're unrealistic, we would hear that through the RFP process itself. We'd have a lot of feedback saying, can the town relook at this or issue an addendum through the process? But yes, the timelines are identified. So.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Phil. Just some questions. I guess the big pieces in the hamlet. So the Stantec will be doing the design and engineering of the sanitary in the water main, and at that point, does it goes out to RFP? Are they the ones that tender the works to be done? Is that something that we do? I'm just wondering, like, the big pieces and how this plays in and what is kind of next.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Houston. Very good question. So over the next little while, Stantec will be starting the detailed design process. There are 2 contracts, and I believe if we can go to the second page of the report, I think there is a map kind of depicting the phasing, contract 1 and contract 2, depicted there in brown and purple or pink. So the consultant will complete the detailed design, the tender documents, will provide the tender documents to the municipality, and that gets posted on the town's bids and tenders page, where we put it out there for the contractors to actually bid on it. And they'll be helping us through that process if there's any questions or addendums that we can put in. With the 2 contracts, we do anticipate 2 tenders going in.
Further questions? Comments? Hearing none. Recommendation, Councillor Higginson, by Councillor Higginson, support Councillor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right. Bylaws, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, Mr. Mayor, with respect to bylaw 2023-045, and that's the proposed new fireworks bylaw, administration just recently received a request from a major stakeholder in the local fireworks industry, asking that they be provided further with an opportunity to provide comment and meet with town staff in regards to feedback or concerns that they may have with the new proposed bylaw. So administration would like to extend that opportunity and would like to ask, or administration is asking if consideration of this bylaw can be deferred until the first regular meeting in May so that we can have that opportunity.
Moved by Councillor Higginson, supported by Councillor Houston, deferral of bylaw 2023-045, the Council Fireworks bylaw, to our next May meeting. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For first and second reading this evening, bylaw 2023-046, temporary outdoor patios and extensions, bylaw 2023-047, mobile food vendors, bylaw 2023-052, amend fees and charges, Schedule A, and bylaw 2023-053, tender award, Stantec. So for first and second reading, and also if council so desires, that all of those bylaws just referenced also receive third reading this evening.
Okay, move 2 readings. Councillor Higginson and Councillor Jobin on 2 readings. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Then any questions or comments? Hearing none, and 3 readings are in order. Councillor Houston, Councillor Dorner, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried.
And then finally, Mr. Mayor, for third and final reading this evening is bylaw 2023-028, Sullivan Creek Drain.
Third and final reading, Councillor Higginson and Councillor Houston. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Okay. Unfinished business? New business. Councilor Jobin?
Thank you, through you. First, on a county matter, there's a number of construction works happening in our area. County Road 42 at 11th Concession. Recently, there was a road closure in that far north end that are specifically affected by it. Didn't receive any notification of the road closure, just the road signage came up, which impacts already with the construction an additional half hour to their driving time to come up, hit baseline and go around. So I was just surprised that they didn't receive a letter, and there's only like 12 houses down there. You know what I mean? Anyway, so some of them voiced their disconcern for that. But then on a fun note, new business, May 6th, the Sandwich South Historical Society is having a historical scavenger hunt. And also on the 7th, May 7th, on the Sunday, St. Mary's Hall, there is going to be a spring vendors market there as well. So some action out there in Ward 5. So if you're out and about, check it out. Thank you.
That's a special day, May 7th. Okay, thank you for that. And also, members of council, I would wish that we could add another meeting, but because of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence initiative, the mayors, they have their meeting in just roughly about 4 weeks prior to the AGM that's coming. And what they're looking at is obviously resolutions on the initiative, and it's basically on the coastal resiliency. As you know, we've just gone through our own SUSIC report, and you've seen what the impact, for the very minor work that we need to do. It's in the tens of millions of dollars. And it's basically, as we know, the federal government has allocated about $465 million in the recent budget, and for the Great Lakes. And so obviously the mayors of the initiative are looking to tapping into those dollars. I won't go into all the whereases, but just at the end, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative requests that the government of Canada and in the town, okay, but the town of Tecumseh support. To designate a multi-ministry team to liaise with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on their GLCRS, determine how Canada can support and learn from the study to improve coastal resilience in the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin. Designate a budget and develop scope of a similar study to the GLCRS for the Canadian Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River, to engage in the governments of Ontario and Quebec to partner to co-fund and execute this work. Examine the possibility of having the Canada Water Agency coordinate this Canadian coastal resiliency study in our basin, and ensure that municipalities, Indigenous communities, key regional and local watershed stakeholders are also consulted in the development and delivery of this study, and build on the investments made by the National Adaptation Strategy to rapid accelerate federal funding for adaptation measures in Canada, including a dedicated $1 billion per year enhancement in disaster mitigation and green infrastructure programming. And further, be it resolved that the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative requests the government of Ontario and Quebec to support the development of an integrated coastal resiliency study for the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin. And further, be it resolved that copies of this resolution be distributed to the federal ministers of environment and climate change, natural resources, emergency preparedness, fisheries and oceans, intergovernmental affairs, infrastructure and communities and transport, as well as the Canada Water Agency Transition Office, the Ontario Ministers of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, Natural Resources, and Forest Infrastructure, and Municipal Affairs and Housing and Transport. Quebec Ministers of the Environment to fight against climate change, excuse me, and Wildlife and Parks, Public Security, Municipal Affairs, Infrastructure, and Transport. And so basically, if you recall, just to give you a little bit of background as well, 2018, the provincial government initiated the McNeil Report. McNeil Report identified coastal resiliency, some of the issues in flooding. And if you recall, they identified the Essex Conservation Authority region as one of the most vulnerable areas for coastal flooding. And so nothing's been done, certainly in those results. And the reason why they're looking at the Army Corps of Engineers, I wish we had them here. A Canadian version of that is because the Army Corps of Engineers are going right at the tip of Superior to all the way down to St. Lawrence on the American side. One report, one study, 11 states, and you know, roughly. And so us here in Canada, we're fragmented, and we're region to region to region to region. And you've seen from our report, we took an initiative to do our little bit, and the county has just allocated last week and did receive a grant. And then Lakeshore is doing theirs. LaSalle is in an attempt of doing theirs. So you can see it's piecemeal throughout the area. And I can tell you on the American side, they're far more, the mayors engage in the resiliency. So this is an opportunity, the federal government, they did allocate $1 billion and plus another 465 million just in the recent budget, but they haven't spent any of that money yet. And so this is what this resolution is for. It's to have more of a connected approach in delivering the coastal resiliency. Everybody's got to do flood mapping. We did that. Others are still way behind. And you've seen in 16 and 17 and also in 19, the impact in the region. Chatham-Kent lost, well, part of highway number 3 to the Great Lakes. The dike in Leamington has, I forget how many hectares of prime agricultural lands that could be under 10 feet of water if the dike would be breached. So you can see those impacts. It's critical, and it's basically asking the government to match up. And talking to the American mayors on the other side, in the Army Corps of Engineers, they're willing to share a lot of that information because our shoreline is not much different than their shoreline. And so we just need somebody to let them know and us know who's on first so that we can figure out second and third base and move on from there. So that's basically the adjustment. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bichetti and supported by Councilor Houston, that we support the resolution of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Initiative, and that be sent to the appropriate agencies.
Yeah.
You should have a motion to waive the rules.
Okay.
Yeah. 'cause it was just-
Okay,
yeah.
because of the emergency and that, a motion to waive our procedural bylaw.
Yeah.
Moved by Councilor Houston and Deputy Mayor Bichetti to waive. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And moved by Deputy Mayor and Councilor Houston that we support the resolution. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. That's a lot of work. I'm losing my voice. Go ahead. No.
Thank you. I'll just sneak this in. Councillor Jobin reminded me that before our next meeting, there is the community has a Jane's Walk coming up. So Jane's Walk is they call them community-led walking conversations. And this year's Jane's Walk will be the first weekend of May, as they all are. This is the first year that it is entirely encompassing the entire Essex County as well as the city of Windsor, and we have one here in Tecumseh. And so there's one being led on about L'Esperance Road on Sunday, May 7th. So I just encourage everybody to come out and look at what's in our own backyard and to support Jane's Walks, which I think are great. I'd love to see those grow in the community too.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Just one little other piece of new business to Ms. Gignac. Can you extend to your Parks Department, the KC and KD, all of them for a great Saturday morning on Earth Day. Mother Nature was kind of kind. She was very kind to us. And what an experience, learning about our ecosystem. Our friends from Caldwell First Nation were all there. I want to thank, obviously, members of council for coming out in administration and learn a lesson on birding, which was, was great. And to see the interaction with the children. So to the organizers, please extend a thanks on our behalf. I think it was really wonderful, and hopefully next year, the Mother Nature will be really kind, and then we can plant trees at the same time. So I think we're still on for Wednesday.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we are. Thank you for the comments, and we are still planting trees tomorrow morning.
Okay, bring your shovel and your boots. It's going to be a little muddy, but it's all for good cause. So thank you. Further new business? None. Then we'll move on to any motions. No, some motion, none. Then can I have a confirmatory bylaw of this evening's proceedings? Go ahead, Councilor Higginson and Councilor Houston on 3 readings to confirm the proceedings. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Notice is a motion. Next meeting, Monday, May the 8th, 4 p.m. special council meeting. That's our strat priorities. And then followed on Tuesday, May 9th, 7 p.m. regular council meeting. Am I reading this right?
Yes.
Only one meeting at 7?
Don't hold us to it.
Subject to change. All right, so no further business. We can terminate our meeting this evening. Moved by Councilor Dorner, Councilor Higginson. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.